All right, welcome everyone. So we're continuing on our Śrīmad Bhāgavatam study, shloka memorization, and we're doing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, first canto, second chapter, first canto, which is such an important chapter. You have basically a summary of all of the science of bhakti in this chapter. It starts off with a little bit of a glorification. It's interesting that we find in this verse, today is verse 9, Vyasadeva uses an acronym. He uses an acronym. The acronym is he calls it Pavarga, and this Pavarga is there are different. Varga means rows. So there are different rows of the Sanskrit letters. You have the guttural letters, ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. You have the next row is the letters that you do with your teeth, cha, cha, ja, ja, and nya. And then you have then it goes all the way. The last one is the labials. The last one are that last varga, that last row of letters is called pavarga. And those letters are pa, pa, ba, pa, and ma. And these letters actually make an acronym. They're an acronym for different things that we have to experience in this world that's specific for the material world. Pa is for parishrama. That means we have to work hard. And sometimes we work so hard that it's pa. We start to get even foam, like the horses when they work really hard, they get foam on the side of their mouth. And then there's pa, means there's frustration in this world. And then there's bha, there's bhaya, there's fear. And finally, there's ma, which is death. So it's quite interesting that I'm wondering where else in Vedic literature where they have a word that's actually an acronym. It's an acronym. So each, this word pavarga is standing for the 5 letters in the pa row of the alphabet. And each letter is signifying a certain thing. So similarly, I worked on an acronym for this chapter, and the chapter acronym is divine. So the first 5 verses is D means to dignify, and the Sutta Goswami and Vyasadeva are both. Sutta Goswami is dignifying, congratulating the sages for their great questions, and Vyasadeva is also dignifying. He is glorifying Shukadeva Goswami, and Sutta Goswami is glorifying Shukadeva Goswami. So there's this dignify. And then I stands for inquiries answered. So the first 2 questions in the Bhagavatam and the first chapter are answered in verses 6 and 7. And now he's beginning to elaborate on those questions, speaking about the question, what's valuable? What's the most valuable thing? And so now we're on this verse, Dharmasya Hyapavargasya. So, welcome. So let me pull up the verse. Veda base. First canto, chapter 2, text number 9. Dharmasya hyapavargasya narto artayo pakalpate nartasya dharmai kantasya kamo labhaya hismitaha. I'll just let Dana K in the room. Welcome, Dana K. So welcome, Dana K. We're just talking about the acronym that I put together for this chapter, and also that in this verse, how the sages have their own acronym in the verse. They have this Pavarga acronym. So the translation is, Dharmasya hyapavargasya. All occupational activities are meant for apavarga, ultimate liberation. So pavarga, as we mentioned, pavarga is pa, hard work, pa, foam at the mouth, pa, frustration, pa, bhaya, fear, and ma, death. These are all horrible things that we do not want to experience, that are specifically elements that are not found in the spiritual world. These are elements that you find in this material world. And so when you put an or an un, and like we say unwell, it's the opposite of well is unwell. The opposite of or unwealthy, or unvaluable. How do you say unvaluable? You say valuable, Artha. We have this verse here, Artha. And how do you say unvaluable? Artha. So you put an un or a in front of a letter, it changes the meaning to the opposite meaning. So pavarga means this whole miserable situation in the two world. You have to work hard, sometimes so hard you're foaming at the mouth. There's frustration, there's fear, and then finally you're rewarded by death. And so the opposite of that is apavarga, liberation, getting out of that whole situation. And specifically the ultimate liberation of the soul, where he's actually reconnecting in his constitutional nature as the lover of Krishna. So that's another word we'll find in this verse, Artha, valuable. Well, wealth, value, economic development. These are some of the things that are valuable. That's this word, Artha. So first line again, Dharmasya hyapavargasya. Certainly, he is the word. All dharma, all occupational engagement is certainly meant for the ultimate liberation. Narto artaya upakalpate. It is not meant. It should never be performed for Artha. Nartasya dharmakantasya. Furthermore, according to the sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain. Kama labhaya hismitaha. So kama labhaya. Labhaya means like the to obtain something. So, and not only it's not meant for meant for Artha, to accumulate one's economic development, to establish oneself in a nice financially secure situation. It's not meant for just the gratification of the senses. What is Dharma for? Dharma is for ultimate liberation. Dharma hyapavargasya. So Dana Kate, do you know what are the four kind of principles, or Prabhupada principles? Sometimes they're called goals. Four purusharthas, the four goals of life according to the Vedic or Hindu culture, the four goals of life.
Well, would one be devotion to Krishna?
Well, that's the Panchama Purushartha, the fifth goal. That's those who have a deeper understanding. They understand that the four are actually kind of not really hitting the spot. But this is, in general, Vedic culture. These are four things that the Vedic culture may be speaking about. Let's see, maybe Vishwato Mukai. He's driving. I don't know if he can.
I can answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha.
Yes. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So as we mentioned before, like when the settlers came from Europe to America, what was the biggest building, in the town? Dana K, what was the biggest building in the town when they first settled into America? Maybe not the first, like, few years, but when they started developing towns. Huh?
Would be the church.
Church, yeah. So they start off with a little Dharma. And then what comes after that? What towers past the church?
Well, nowadays, the banks.
The banking buildings. So you got your Artha, yeah, and you see those are the big buildings, financial institutions. That's the Artha. And then after that, once they get enough financial stability, then you start having like Las Vegas. You start building buildings that are just for kama, just for some enjoyment. And as you see the history of America in the 60s, the 50s was a time of great comfort and opulence. There were a lot of financial security. There was economic security. There was, everybody was doing quite well. And then out of that came the 60s, all these frustrated kids who were, although they had everything, they were not finding actual enjoyment. So they went for moksha. They were looking for some kind of spiritual, some other option that was something beyond just gratifying the senses. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So oftentimes the word Dharma can be understood in different ways. The word Dharma is often related to the word karma, and the word karma is often used not in the sense of action reaction, but karma often means the dutiful actions, doing right things, being a good Vedic follower, a good Hindu. And then why do you do these things? Because then it makes your life, it brings good fortune into your life, brings Artha, brings like comforts and wealth and these things that people are desiring. And then why do you want wealth? So you can enjoy it. So you can, first you just work hard a lot, and then you can go to Vegas and enjoy. And then if you're tired of that, maybe at the end of your life, say a few prayers, and maybe you'll get moksha, get out of this world, attain liberation. But here the Bhāgavatam is saying Dharma is not for that at all. It's not for Artha, what to speak of kama. This is definitely not for kama, for material enjoyment. It is not even for, bringing good fortune into your life. It's actually, Dharma is meant to lead you to ultimate liberation. So here's the purport, really short purport. We have already discussed that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment from this material existence. Dana K, do you remember that verse?
I'm just striking out today, aren't I?
Devotional service is automatically followed by knowledge and detachment. So that's the verse, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janati Asyu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Ahaitukam. So Vairagya, we said this is the old age we're looking for. We want to go towards Vairagya, not Viagra. This is like we're wanting becoming more and more disentangled from this world. And jnanam, spiritual knowledge. So these two things follow, they come as byproducts of devotional service. That was, I think, the previous verse, should be the previous verse. No, that's, no, it's the one before that. It's verse 7. Verse 7, yeah. So Dharmasya Bhavargya, let's go back to verse 9. So we already discussed that pure devotional service, bhakti, is it comes with this byproduct of spiritual knowledge. You gain awareness of the soul's distinction from the body, and you also develop detachment from material existence. But there are the others who consider all kinds of different occupational engagements, including those of religion, are meant for material gain. So those who are not accustomed to the practice of bhakti or trained in it, they may think this dharma is actually just for, the material gain. The general tendency. Welcome, Karuna. Let's see. Karuna's coming. She's probably in her car, heading home. The general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or economic.
I also want cookies.
Welcome, Karuna. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
There you go. The general tendency for any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. So you find this, what is this called? What do we call that? Prosperity gospel. If you come to our church, you come to our temple, you come to our synagogue, you come to our mosque, and do the religious thing, God is going to line those pockets. You're going to get everything you want. It's going to be spiritual Amazon Prime and just give you everything. Now, of course, we know Krishna does. He does take care of his devotees, but he's mainly taking care of them in such a way that they make progress. He will not give them something that is detrimental for their own spiritual growth. Like you have the story of Bhashmasura, Vrikasura. So there was a demon. Let's see, Karuna, do you know who Bhashmasura is? Do you know who Vrikasura is? Okay. So Bhashmasura, he's mostly known as Vrikasura, but he's also known Bhashma. Bhashma means ash. He would do this austerity where he was eating ash. He would just survive on eating ashes. And he would do a worship of Lord Shiva. And he would cut off pieces of his muscle and skin and throw it into a fire. Why? Because he wanted to get a benediction, powers from Lord Shiva. And so he was cutting off chunks. I imagine the great determination he had. If only we had that same determination in our spiritual life. But it's, oftentimes if we're selfishly motivated, then we find that we can be very motivated. If we're trying to do something for, somebody else, not our extended self, but actually just completely for somebody else, we find ourselves kind of motivated, not as enthusiastic. But he was very enthusiastic. You find also today, we have so many, Olympians, and you have musicians. They work so hard, great sacrifices, but those sacrifices are generally not to serve others. It's just for one's own personal prestige and to have attained some position. So this Bhashmasura, he was doing this, and he didn't see anything happen, and so he became more and more intense. And so he decided at the very end, after he started, I'm going to cut my head off, and with the last piece of energy in my body, I will drop my head into the fire. And so as he had the knife around his neck, Lord Shiva came out of the fire and said, hey, please, you don't need to do all these gory asceticism. I am Ashutosh. I'm very easily pleased. The other side of Ashutosh also means he's easily angered. Sometimes we know people like that become angry very easily and also pleased very easily. There's a famous sage. What's his name? Karuna, who's the sage who gets upset very easily?
Durvasa.
Durvasa, yes, thank you. And he is said to be partial expansion of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva said, I'm very easily pleased. You don't have to, you just offer me like, what's the famous leaf? I think it's the peepal leaf, or there's different things that one can do in worship of Lord Shiva. He said, I don't need all this gory stuff. What can I give you? And he says, I want the power. Whoever's head I touch, their head will explode. Now, as being a powerful ascetic, he already had great powers. And so Lord Shiva said, Tatashtu, so be it. And then he was winking at Lord Shiva's wife. He was looking at the beautiful Parvati. He decided, I want Lord Shiva's wife. And all I have to do to get her is I have to kill Lord Shiva. And so he started chasing Lord Shiva around, trying to touch Lord Shiva's head. And Lord Shiva ran in great fear throughout the universe. Like you said, this is a ascetic asura. He had great powers. And so Lord Shiva was being chased by him. And he was being chased, and finally, Lord Vishnu intervened. He appeared in front of that demon in his Brahmana form and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm trying to catch Lord Shiva to get him out, to cut him out of the picture and take his wife." He said, "Well, how are you going to do that?" He said, "Well, I got this power from him that whoever's head I touch, their head will explode." And so Lord Vishnu in his form, he said, Shiva, he doesn't have any powers. Go ahead, touch your head. Nothing's going to happen. And she touched his head and he exploded. And so the Lord spoke to Lord Shiva after that, said, please, don't give these benedictions so easily. So oftentimes, people will be attracted to worship of Lord of various devatas, various different representatives, because they can and often will, if they're approached properly and done by the proper procedures, give various benedictions. Or Krishna will caringly give what is actually, they won't just give you anything. It's not like the child says, I want something that's very dangerous, and the parent just gives it. The Krishna will give those things. He would definitely care, and he'll definitely experience the support and care of the Lord. But he won't just arbitrarily give somebody something that will ruin their spiritual pursuit. Oftentimes you find those who win the lottery, they end up more miserable, and they often end up bankrupt. So they were financially better off before they won the lottery. They just waste all their money, and then they run themselves into a horrible situation. Okay, so where are we? Because material gain, why are such so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill one's desires, which in turn satisfy sense gratification. The cycle of occupational engagements, or Dharma, includes so-called religiosity, followed by material gain, followed by fulfillment of desires. Sense gratification is a general way of all sorts of fully occupied men. But in this statement of Sutta Goswami, as per the Vedic verdict of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, this is nullified by the present shloka. One should not engage himself in any sort of dharma or occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be utilized just for sense gratification. How material gain should be utilized is described as follows, and that's the next verse. So Dharma is not for Artha. Artha is not for Kama. And what should you have Kama for? That's described in the next verse. What should your material desire be? And the next verse says, you should Kamasya nitriyendir priyatir labo jivita yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yascheha karma bihi. So you should just want jiveta. You should just want a self-preservation. You should just want a healthy life. If you're going to have material desires, that's the only thing that you really need, is a healthy life. Because why? The human body is whereby which you can have jigyasa, tattva jigyasa. You can have inquiry into what is tattva, what is truth. Like the little boy Prahlad Maharaj, who is half Karuna's age, says, Kumar acharet pragyo. From the very early age of Kumara, which starts at 5, Dharman Bhagavataniha. One should connect themselves in bhakti or devotional service, Bhagavat Dharma. Durlabha Manusham Janma, because human life, although it is very rare and difficult to obtain, it comes after so many different species of life. And although it is adruvam, it is very short-lived, it is very impermanent. Dhruva means permanent, adruvam, very impermanent. Artha, this word artha again, it can give you the greatest value. So Dharma is not for Artha. Artha is not for Kama. And if you have, what Kama should you have? Just desire a healthy life. Any questions, any comments? Dana K?
No questions.
Now, one may ask, if Dharma is just meant for apavarga, liberation, then why do Vedic literatures mention all this stuff? Why do Vedic literatures mention worship this demigod if you want a nice, wealthy husband, worship this demigod or demigod if you want a nice wife, worship this demigod if you want to have, be free from the influence of Saturn, do this, do this puja. If you want to have, good luck in business, do this type of puja. Why are all these things there? And so I believe it is Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Let me see if I can find it. It's either Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur or Baladeva Vibhushan. I believe one of them give a type of progressive understanding. Let's see. I probably can't find it in search, but I'll just explain it. So a person can be, say someone is born in the Vedic culture, and they in ancient India especially, and they hear from Shastra, Smriti, they hear from these Vedic literatures how you can enjoy great benefits, this prosperity gospel, if you do some puja, you do this kind of ritual, worship, yajna, and they engage in the ritual and worship, the yajna, and then they do experience, actually this happens, like I did this, worship of Lord Indra, and the rain came, and because of the rain, actually there's a funny verse in the Bhāgavatam, it talks about country people and city people. It's in the chapter about autumn, and it talks about how country people, they love it when it rains because that means food. And the city people don't really connect the idea that that's where your food comes from, and they get upset when it rains. Where the farmers are like, yes, it's raining. They're all happy, and the people in the city are all miserable. Why is it raining? But hey, that's where our food comes from. So the person does some type of puja, and then they get their rain, and they feel satisfied. So what are some of the effects of that? They have this experience of satisfaction, and they also have experience of confidence in that tradition, that science of appeasing the higher deities. So there's some understanding that there's something greater than me, and there is some understanding of that there's a kind of there's some kind of control, there's some kind of leadership. Now, if they listen a little bit further from the sages, they'll hear, forget about, there you go. Forget about doing pujas and worship so you can get some kind of, insignificant situation in this life. They hear, oh, you can do this puja, this worship, this yajna, and you can get something really fantastic. You can get a situation way better than human life. You can be born as a Gandharva, a Charna, a Vidyadhara. You can be born even as Lord Indra. So you can enjoy much greater in your next life. And so with that, the byproduct of that is, again, there is a new element, is that you begin to understand there is a next life. So there's some kind of spiritual knowledge that is starting to come. Now, if they stick around a little bit longer, they hear from the sages, they hear from the Sastra, they hear from the gurus, they'll hear these stories of Lord Indra, these stories of the demigods, where they are themselves, although they have lifespans that are much greater than humans, they have great facilities of material enjoyment, they will hear that, wait, the demigods even have situations of frustration. They even have fear. They have all kinds, the same troubles that we're going through. Actually, in the 11th canto of the Bhāgavatam, it describes that just like we have envy, we suffer because of envy and all kinds of situations. So the demigods, they also have the problem of envy, and they deal with the problem of envy. And so that person, as they hear, they may hear that there's apavarga. There is liberation from this material world, getting out of the cycle of birth and death. And so they're gradually going through different levels of karma kanda, this materialistic section of the Vedas. They're coming to the point where they're gaining attraction to jnana kanda, liberation. And in the same way, if they have more association of the sastra, the sadhus, the sacred tradition, then they have an opportunity to hear about devotional service, bhakti, and so they can come to the upasana kanda, where it's, karma kanda is a section where everybody's trying to satisfy themselves. It's all about, what do I get? Jnana kanda is, again, it's not about what can I get, but how can I be free from the sufferings, but it's still about me. And then the upasana kanda, this is where I'm trying to actually be a servant of God. I'm not trying to get a material thing. I'm not even trying to get salvation. I'm just trying to give. And so these are the progression of the different. And so the person born in that culture, they develop this faith in the tradition because they see it works. And because of that, they're willing to go further and further and further, and then ultimately hopefully come to bhakti. That was like the slow progressive path of the ancient Vedic culture. It's just kind of like if somebody came to a little village and they installed, a solar panel and a battery, and they told the villagers, this is a microwave. You press the buttons here, put some food in, you wait 2 minutes, and your food comes out piping hot. And if the villagers follow those procedures, we say it's by Kenmore. The villagers follow those procedures. They develop shraddha. They develop faith in that system. So the next time the guy has something even greater to offer, a refrigerator, some other appliance, they'll be willing to try it out. So this shraddha is carried on from the very low materialistic stage of getting things in this life, getting things in the next life, getting salvation, and then getting a relationship with Krishna. So it's this progression. And that's why you'll find it in Vedic culture. Kamo. So we're here at, I think it's time for us to start practicing the verse. Vishwatomukai Prabhu, I know you're driving. You have any reflections you want to share?
Well, Dharma is a very interesting word. And it can, Prabhupada would describe it as the inherent quality of something, like the Dharma of sugar is to be sweet, and the Dharma of chili is to be hot. But Krishna, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, says, I've come to establish Dharma. Dharma was it Prichanaya Sadhanam Vanasha Chaduskritam Dharma Sangastapanarpaya. And at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he says, give up Dharma, give up all Dharma and just surrender to me. So there are many Dharmas according to Varnashram, according to one's status in life or what he's desiring. There's Kshatriya Dharma, Grihastha Dharma. Grihasthas should perform so many duties. But ultimately, the inherent quality, just like this sweetness or sugar, the inherent quality of the soul is the eternal servant of Krishna. So Krishna says, give up all these materially motivated dharmas, just surrender to me. That's the ultimate dharma. And that's a similar theme to this verse in the Bhāgavatam.
Thank you, yes. Actually, in these lectures, on this section of Bhāgavatam, Prabhupada, each verse, Prabhupada repeats this fact. He says, usually in the West, people translate the word dharma as religion. He says, you can change your religion, but you can't change your dharma. You know, if the thing that looks like sugar is not sweet, then it's not sugar, because it doesn't have the right characteristic. If it tastes salty, then that wasn't sugar. So dharma is that inherent characteristic. The most essential meaning of dharma is that essential characteristic it's swadharma. It's the person's own actual characteristic. You have the kind of external swadharma that's based on your body. That's what is, maybe I have the body that I was born into. I have a nature of being a protector, like if there's a smoke in a building, my nature is to want to go and save somebody. But underneath, what is the actual nature that is that sorupine vyastitihi? What is the actual nature, the form of the person that is always, it's nitya, it's always there? What's its actual characteristic? And so one of the essential characteristics is that the soul is always a servant. We don't have we serve our senses, we serve our boss, we serve the IRS, we serve our spouse, and if we don't have a spouse, we'll get a dog or a cat and we'll serve the dog and cat. Our nature is to want to render some kind of to be in some kind of connection of service. So therefore, in the essential verse in this chapter, Savaipum Samparo Dharma, what is the Paradharma? What is the supreme or Dharma? Is that by which the soul gets love for God. And then the next verse is saying, and the love of God, that bhakti brings with it everything, jnana and vairagyam. And then the next verse after that, which is Dharma shvanushtita pumsam vivakshena katasuyat notpadyat. And any kind of dharma that doesn't include an attraction to God, shrama eva hi kevalam, is actually just a waste of time. If we're doing religious things and we're actually not developing love for the Supreme and love for like Krishna says, if we don't love, if we love Him, then we love all living entities as expansions of Krishna, as Krishna's energy. So if we're not developing that, shrama eva hi kevalam, this useless labor. Actually, that shrama, you can see it in this word pavarga. The pa is the parishrama. This hard work for what? So if we're doing all kinds of religious things and we're not developing love, waste of time. Thank you, Vishwatomukha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dana K, any questions, any comments, any reflections?
Not yet.
All right, so let's just start this verse. Unless Karuna, you have any questions? Okay. Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
And I think, Danica, you might have missed a little bit of the beginning. Do you remember, do you know what the word pavarga means?
Is that when you were talking about, is that whenever you were talking about miseries and things?
Yes, yes. So you have in Sanskrit, how many letters? How many letters are there? There's a lot of letters. But the letters are actually scientifically organized according to where in the throat, where in the mouth the sound is made. So the first letters of Sanskrit are called the gutturals. They start in the lower part. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nya. And then the last part is the last row of consonants is, so that's the kavarga, chavarga, tavarga, tavarga, and pavarga. The last letter, the last row of letters are called pavarga. And those letters, those 5 letters are pa, pa, ba, ba, and ma. And so there, you know, sometimes when you first read this, or maybe even the 5th time or 10th time you read this, you're like, how does pavarga mean pa, ba? It's like different letters, but it's actually, the pavarga means the row. Varga means row, and the pa row. And so the pa row, you have pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. And so pa is for parishrama, shrama, like the previous verse, shrama eva kevalam, just hard work. Then pa is like foam at the mouth, like horses that get foam at the mouth. People, if they work really hellishly hard, they start foaming at the mouth. Or when you get old sometimes, or you get sick, sometimes you have foam at the mouth. Pa, pa. Ba is frustration, and ba with the H is fear, and ma, you end up this at the end, you just get death, ritu. And so apavarga means this liberation, the freedom from those situations. So what is Dharma for? It's for the ultimate liberation, not for this material things. Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
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 So Vishwatomukha Prabhu, can you say it for us?
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Very nice. Dana K, how about you? Can you read it off for us?
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Should I put it up on the screen? Let me just put it up on the screen. Hopefully I'm sometimes Zoom just crashes if I open up too much stuff. So I don't know if I want to pull up the screen. I don't want to crash the whole thing. So hopefully you have it in front of your screen. It's 129.
Yeah, I do.
So again, can you read it again?
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya Yapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya Hapavargasya.
Okay, apavarga, yeah. And then there's, can you say it with your eyes closed? Are you ready for that?
Let me try. Dharmasya Hapavargasya.
There you go. You got it. You got it. Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya Yapavargasya.
Okay, and the next line you have this word Artha twice. You have this. What does the word Artha mean? Dana K.
Artha. And?
Artha is the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So Dharma is
Our occupational engagement.
Artha is
Our
financial,
financial.
security,
I'm
economic
just like
development.
brain dead today. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. So Artha means valuable. Like when we chant the holy name of Krishna, it helps get rid of the unarthas, the unvaluable things in our heart. You know, the things that we don't want sitting there.
That's where I was getting confused. Okay.
So, unartha. So this is artha. This is narto, means na artha. It's artha is not meant for let's see. Naruto, the end. Okay, it says artha end. The gain is not meant for material gain. Artaya, upakalpate. So it says that, yeah, the word is one is kind of like the gain of it is not meant for material gain. So it's using the word artha in two kind of subtle different ways. So dharmasya hyapavargasya naruto artayo artaya upakalpate. Artaya upakalpate. We can just practice, let's practice that word because that's a big word together. Artayo pakalpate.
Artayo Pakalpate.
Artayo pakalpate.
Artayo Pakalpate.
Yeah. Artayo pakalpate.
Artayo Pakalpate.
Yeah, that word's probably the more challenging word in this verse, is the upakalpate. Artayo pakalpate.
Artayo Pakalpate.
Artayo pakalpate.
Artayo Pakalpate.
Artayo pakalpate.
Artayo
Artayo
Pakalpate.
Pakalpate.
Narto arto pakalpate.
Narto Tayo Pakalpate.
Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto Tayo Pakalpate.
Narto artayo pakalpate. Artayo pakalpate. Artayo pakalpate. Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto Tayo Pakalpate.
Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto Tayo Pakalpate.
Artayo Pakalpate.
Yeah. It's not easy.
It's not.
If you do it like 30, 40 times, and at some point it's like, okay, then it clicks into place. Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto Tayo Pakalpate.
Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto Tayo Pakalpate.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya Yapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Narta artayo kapal. Narta artayo kapalpate. Now my tongue is getting tied. Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto tayo pakalpate.
Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto tayo pakalpate.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya karma nartasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
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 So labhaya, it means to obtain something. And smrita is like the smriti, the sages are saying they're repeating the smritis, the literatures, the Vedic literature. So the Vedic literature or the great sages, they're being referred to as like authorities. Kamo labhaya hi smritaha. So in the translation it says, furthermore, according to the sages. So that's the smritaha. Kama, we know this word, maybe you've heard of the book Kama Sutra. You know this word desire. Kama, labhaya hi smritaha. So Dharma is not for Artha, and it's definitely not for Kama, for labhaya, to the attainment of material enjoyment, to attain material enjoyment. Labhaya. Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Nartasya dharma kantasya.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Danica, can you read it off to us?
The whole thing?
Yes.
Oh my, this one's tough for me.
That's why we practice it. We'll practice.
Dharmasya hipavagavasya.
Dharmasya hyapyavargyasya.
Nato artayao pakalpate.
Naruto. Artayo pakalpate.
Wait. Nato artayo pakalpate.
Narta. Let's see. I got it. Naruto. Artayo pakalpate.
Tayo pakalpate.
Yeah, I think you can break it up there and just have the last word pakalpate. Naruto artayo pakalpate.
Artayo pakalpate.
So you read that line again?
Nato art. I don't know why I get stuck right there. Nato Say it one more time.
Narto,
Narto.
Artha, not Artha, not
Narto.
Naruto, Artayo,
Artayo.
Pakalpate.
Artayo. Pakalpate. Phew.
Narto,
Narto.
Artayo, Pakalpate.
Artayo. Pakalpate.
Okay, again.
Narto. Artayo. Pakalpate.
Very much.
Oh. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. And then keep on going. Keep on that last part of the line. Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartayasya dharmakantasya.
Nartasya dharmai
Dharmai
kantasya.
kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Kantasya.
Kantasya. Dharmai
Eka means that one who's dharma ekantasya, one who is engaged in ultimate. Let's see. So one who is engaged, that one who is engaged in dharma, shouldn't use it for kama. No, it's not that shouldn't be. Oh, let me be religious so I can get some gratification. 0 sense gratification. Actually, this is described in Madhurya Kadambini, in the beginning of our spiritual life, in the early part of spiritual life. There's these things that pop up, these different types of obstacles, and one of them is Viyuddha Vikalpa, oscillating resolve. Another one is Ganatarla, being very like intense and then very lackadaisical, like, oh, I'm going to be really serious different. And then there's there's 6 of them. Let's see if I don't know if I can remember all of them, but the last one is called Taranga Rangini. Taranga Rangini means to enjoy the waves, which means that if one comes to devotional service, there are certain byproducts, materialistic byproducts that may appear. Like, say somebody never had any kind of respectable position. Maybe they had a very simple job and nobody ever gave them honor and respect, but they engaged in devotional service, and because of bhakti, they also develop good habits. Their habits change. Maybe their family members become more respectful to him because of the person's no longer an alcoholic or no longer is suffering a drug addiction. And because of this, a person may be given respect and honor. And then Taranga Rangini means you take that as your spiritual enjoyment, is trying to enjoy all that respect, trying to enjoy all the honor and prestige. So it's a materialistic byproduct, and these are obstacles in spiritual life. So Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Nartasya dharmai kantasya.
Kamo labhaya hismitaha.
Kamo labhaya hismitaha.
Dharmasya yapavargasya.
Dharmasya yapavargasya.
Narta artayo pakalpate. So Dana K, when you at some point write this third line in 3 separate words.
Yeah, that's
Write it in three. Narto, artayo, pakalpate, and just write it in three separate words. Nartasya dharmaikantasya.
Nartasya dharmaikantasya.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Dharmasya hyapavargyasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargyasya.
Dharmasya hyapavargasya.
Narto artayo pakalpate.
Narto tayo pakalpate.
Narta artayo pakalpate.
Narto tayo pakalpate.
Narta artayo pakalpate.
Narto tayo pakalpate.
Narta artayo pakalpate.
Narto tayo pakalpate.
Nartasya dharmakantasya.
Nartasya dharmakantasya.
Nartasya dharmakantasya.
Nartasya dharmakantasya.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Kamo labhaya hi smritaha.
Okay, Danica, without looking at the screen, tell us some of the words. What are the words and their meanings?
Oh man. Oh. Without looking, huh? Kama is desire.
Desire, yep.
Dharma is our
You can look at the verse. You can look at the verse. Just don't look at the word.
okay. I was trying to remember both. Okay. Then Dharma is occupational duties.
What are some of the meanings for the word Artha?
That's the material gain.
Yes. Kind of financial stability. Also, it means gain or end. The end, like the.
Okay.
And what else is there?
The last word has to do with the sages, right?
Sages, yeah. And labhaya. Labhaya.
Gaining, grabbing, attachment.
Obtain, yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a verse with the word labhaya. That's hold on, let me see. It was labha. Should be in a lot of. Let me look it up. It's not coming up. Let's see. Labha. Looking it up. Swarta Atma Labha. Akila. Let's see. Chapter Bhagavad Gita. Labha Labhayo. Both profit and loss. Chapter 4 with gain. Chapter 6 gain, labham. Yam labha chaparam labham manyate nadikam tata. Upon gaining this, one feels that there is no other greater gain. This is a verse about describing the samadhi state of full absorption, full trance upon the supreme person. Yato parama chitam. So labha, gain, obtain. Seems very close to the word Artha that because it was also used the word as an end or gain. Kind of a little closely overlap. Okay, you got it good. Yeah. Got the main words. How about the acronym? What is the word for the acronym? And do you remember the acronym? It's in the first line.
Apavarga.
Apavarga, yes. And Vishatoma Prabhu, do you remember the 5 letters, what they mean?
Well, apabhagama. One's hard work, foaming at the mouth, it ends with death. I'm not sure what comes in between, but it's probably not good.
Yeah. Frustration and then fear. Yeah. Hard work, foam at the mouth, frustration, fear, and death. And so liberation means to be free from all those things. That's why liberation is considered. It's like most consider liberation in the Vedic culture. Generally, most consider liberation as the ultimate thing. This is the great spiritual thing that we're all looking for. You have Vyasadeva is being chastised by Narada Muni. He said, I wrote all these Vedas. I wrote the Puranas. I wrote Mahabharata and Ramayana and the Itihasas and the Upavedas. And I still feel some dissatisfaction. And Narada said, you haven't really given a clear idea of where it's all supposed to end up. People in general are motivated by material desire, and you have encouraged them in the name of religion. I think that's chapter 5 of this canto. So most people are into kama, and now they're just going to use dharma for kama. And so this verse is clarifying dharma is not for artha, and it's definitely not for kama. So dharmasya hyapavargasya narto artayo pakalpate nartasya dharmakantasya kamo labhaya hismitaha. So I think we're at our time. You can always send a message on WhatsApp and see whose answers, and you can find a practice partner, myself or whoever is available. You can jump on there and we can practice some of these verses and discuss them. Any last comments or questions? Anything you want to share? All right, well, great to have you all here. Om Tat Sat, thanks a lot. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.